He had no money, no friends, no future. But one day, everything changed. There was a boy born in New York City in 1946. His name? Sylvester Stallone. But no one called him a star back then. In fact, they called him the Broken One. You see, Sylvester wasn't born like other children. A complication during birth damaged a nerve in his face. It left part of his mouth paralyzed, his lip drooped, and his speech was slurred. Even as a baby, he looked different. And when he started to talk, people laughed. They didn't listen, they only stared. Growing up, Stallone felt like the world had already decided who he was. A mistake, a failure. His parents fought often. His father was strict and cold. His mother was kind but overwhelmed. Sylvester didn't feel like he belonged anywhere. Not at home, not in school, not even in his own skin. When he was a teenager, he was expelled from multiple schools. Teachers said he was too slow. Other students mocked him. He was awkward, poor, and wore secondhand clothes. No one saw his potential, not even himself. But deep inside, there was something no one could see, a quiet fire. He loved movies. He could sit for hours, lost in the stories of heroes, warriors, dreamers. He didn't want to just watch them. He wanted to be one of them. Still, dreams don't feed you. And by the time he was in his 20s, Sylvester was barely surviving. He took whatever jobs he could get, cleaning cages at a zoo, working as an usher at a movie theater, even acting in small unpaid plays. But nothing worked. No role, no money, no break. At one point, he was so broke he had to sell his wife's jewelry just to buy food. And then, things got worse. He was forced to sell his dog. Yes, the dog he loved, his only companion. He stood outside a liquor store, tears in his eyes, and begged a stranger to buy the dog so it could eat. He sold it for $25. That moment, standing alone, empty-handed, heartbroken, would have made most people quit. And maybe he thought about quitting too. But something in him whispered, not yet. He started writing, not because he was a great writer, but because he had nothing else. And one night, after watching a boxing match between a nobody named Chuck Wepner and the world champion Muhammad Ali, inspiration hit him like a punch to the chest. A story formed in his mind. Not about winning, but about fighting. About standing up even when you're sure you'll fall. About a man who gets one shot and takes it. In 3 days, he wrote a script. A story about a boxer named Rocky Balboa. He was excited, nervous, but above all, hopeful. He started showing the script to producers, directors, anyone who would read it. And to his surprise, they liked it. Some even loved it. But when they asked who would play Rocky, he said, "Me." They laughed. "No," they said. "We'll pay for the script, but someone else will act." They offered him thousands, then tens of thousands, even $360,000. But Sylvester said no. He was broke, homeless, starving. But he refused to sell his dream unless he was part of it. Why? Because Rocky wasn't just a character. It was him, his story, his pain, his fight, his voice. So what made him keep going when most people quit? Was it pride, madness, desperation, or maybe it was belief? A belief that the world doesn't define you, you do. Even when you're broke, even when you're alone, even when they laugh. He was the boy who refused to quit, and this was just the beginning. They told him no, again and again. No, you don't have the look. No, you sound strange. No, you'll never make it. He was too poor, too odd, too slow, too everything the world didn't want. After turning down thousands of dollars just to keep the right to play Rocky, Stallone had nothing left. His apartment was gone, his heat was cut off. He was sleeping in a bus station in New York City. For 3 nights straight, he laid curled on a hard wooden bench, hungry, cold, invisible. He had sold his dog, the last thing he loved. He had pawned everything else. But what he wouldn't sell was the one thing he had left, his belief in his story. Still, belief doesn't fill your stomach. It doesn't warm your hands. And when you're living on hope, every hour feels like a lifetime. Days turned into weeks. Producers kept calling. They wanted his script, but not him. Take the money, they said. Let a real actor play Rocky. And oh, did he consider it? Can you imagine that? You're homeless. You haven't eaten a full meal in days. Someone waves hundreds of thousands of dollars in your face. A way out, a clean bed, a second chance. But Stallone said something that would define his life. If I sell this script without me in it, then I'm selling myself. You see, for Stallone, Rocky wasn't just fiction. It was his mirror. A man who had no reason to fight, but fought anyway. Not because he could win, but because he couldn't walk away. And so he waited. He endured. He faced rejection after rejection, not just from strangers, but from the world itself. He heard whispers. Who does he think he is? He's delusional. He's wasting his time. Even the people closest to him began to doubt. Friends said, just let it go, Sly. Family said, maybe it's time to be realistic. Even his wife, tired of the hunger, the debt, the uncertainty, was pulling away. It was one of the lowest points of his life, not just because he was poor, but because he was alone. That's the thing about chasing dreams. The higher you aim, the lonelier it gets. And the more you believe, the more it hurts when no one else does. Every day, Stallone woke up with a question burning in his mind. Am I crazy or courageous? And that question, it cuts deep. Because when you're standing in the dark, no applause, no promise, no proof, the voice in your head can become your worst enemy. You're a joke. No one will care. You're wasting your life. And for a moment, he almost believed it. He started to doubt the script, started to wonder if maybe the producers were right. Maybe he was wrong for the role. Maybe he was just a guy with a crooked smile and a broken voice. But then something changed. One morning, while walking past the liquor store, the same spot where he sold his dog, he saw a familiar figure, a man with the same dog. Heart pounding, Stallone walked over and begged to buy his dog back. The man said no. Stallone pleaded, explained, offered $100, then $500. Finally, he paid $15,000 to get back the dog he had sold for $25,000. That story, it's more than just about a dog. It's about love, loyalty, redemption. It's about never forgetting who you are, no matter how far you fall. Shortly after, a small production company called him back. They said, fine, we'll let you play Rocky, but we'll only give you $35,000 for the script. He said yes. He didn't hesitate. He didn't bargain, because it wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about the fight, about the right to tell his story his way, to stand in front of the camera with all his flaws and show the world that even the broken can rise. But don't get it wrong. Saying yes to the role didn't mean the hard part was over. In fact, it was just beginning. Stallone now had one shot, one tiny window of opportunity. The budget was low, the team was small, the filming was rough, rushed, and filled with pressure. If the movie failed, it would be the end. No second chances, no backup plans, just one shot to go the distance. But Stallone was ready, because he had trained not just for weeks or months, but for years. in silence, in rejection, in pain. And all that pain, all that hunger, heartbreak, and humiliation, he poured it into every line, every punch, every look in Rocky's eyes. You see, when you live the struggle, you don't need to act. You just need to remember. And Stallone remembered it all. The cameras rolled, the lights were harsh, the studio was small, and Sylvester Stallone, he was terrified. He had waited his entire life for this moment, and now, standing in front of the camera, he wasn't sure he could do it. What if they were right? What if he wasn't good enough? What if, after everything, he failed anyway? But then he took a breath, closed his eyes, and became Rocky. Because the truth is, he didn't need to act. He was Rocky, a man who had been beaten down over and over, but refused to stay down. Filming began in early 1976. The budget? Tiny, only around $1 million, barely enough for a full production. They couldn't afford permits for locations, so many scenes were filmed guerrilla style. No permission, no protection. Just Stallone and a small crew running through the streets of Philadelphia, shooting as fast as they could before someone asked them to leave. The famous scene of Rocky jogging through the market? It wasn't scripted. Stallone just started running. The people in the background weren't extras. They were real vendors, real kids, reacting in real time. They had no idea they were part of history. And that iconic moment when Rocky runs up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art and raises his arms in victory, it was shot in a single take. No special effects, no crowd control, just pure emotion. Because Stallone wasn't just acting out a victory, he was living one. But the challenges didn't stop with filming. The studio didn't believe in the movie. They didn't think Stallone could carry a lead role. They didn't think audiences would relate to a stuttering, slurring underdog. Some even wanted to cut the emotional scenes, make Rocky more polished, more like a traditional hero. But Stallone fought to keep every moment real. Because Rocky wasn't supposed to be perfect. He was supposed to be human. And finally, after months of shooting, editing, and quiet hope, the movie was ready. No one expected much. In fact, most people thought it would flop. But then, the world saw it. They saw him. Not just a boxer, not just a character, but a symbol. A reminder that no matter how hard life hits, you can still stand up. You can still fight. You can still matter. The audience didn't just watch Rocky. They felt him. Because in some way, everyone is fighting their own Apollo Creed. Everyone has heard the word no. Everyone knows what it means to be counted out. And now, for once, they saw someone who didn't quit. The movie exploded. It earned over $225 million worldwide. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards. And Stallone, the broke, rejected, slurring underdog, was nominated for Best Actor. Let that sink in. A man who once slept in a bus station, who had sold his dog just to eat, who was told again and again that he didn't belong, was now sitting among the legends of Hollywood. But here's what's more important than awards or money. It was what happened inside him. Stallone began to believe, not in fame, not in image, but in himself. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel ashamed of how he spoke. He didn't hide his crooked smile. He didn't try to fit in, because now the world loved him for exactly those things. The very things he was once told would ruin his career were the reasons people connected to him. His slurred speech, it made him real. His slow, deliberate voice, it made people listen. His brokenness, it made him whole. And that's the part of the story people often miss. Yes, Rocky was a success. Yes, Stallone became famous. But the real transformation wasn't what happened on the outside. It was what happened within. Because when you fight long enough, hard enough, and true enough, you don't just change your life, you change who you are. And Stallone had changed, not into someone new, but into the person he was always meant to be. Rocky didn't just win at the box office, it won hearts. Around the world, people saw themselves in the character, in the sweat, the pain, the loneliness, and above all, the fight. Not the fight to win, but the fight to keep going. Kids in Brazil who had nothing but dreams. Young workers in India walking home after 12-hour shifts. Students in Vietnam trying to believe in a better life. They all watched Rocky and whispered to themselves, maybe I can do it too. Stallone became more than a movie star. He became a symbol, a voice for the unheard, the underestimated, and he never forgot where he came from. In interviews, he spoke softly, humbly. He didn't brag about money or fame. He talked about sleeping in that bus station. He talked about the day he sold his dog and the tears he cried. He talked about rejection and fear and how close he came to giving up. Because that's what made his story powerful. Not the happy ending, but the impossible journey. And what happened after Rocky? He didn't stop. He didn't slow down. He kept creating. Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rambo, Creed. Some movies did better than others. Some failed. But through it all, one thing remained the same. He never stopped showing up. That's the part most people miss about success. It's not about being perfect. It's not about always winning. It's about being relentless, about waking up even on the hard days and doing the work anyway. And Stallone, he did the work for decades. He aged, his body changed, his fame rose and fell, but the spirit, that fire, never faded.